Good afternoon, Essentials Room, or good morning. Hope you helped. Hope this helped you. Looking at everything in here, chart patterns mastery. So, what are we doing in here? Well, you have a lot of different things, and I thought that I would share what we were sharing in the chart patterns mastery. Just a little cheat sheet, little crib sheet for you. So there you go. So right now, and welcome YouTube Live, by the way. So what are we watching? Well, number one, you got to look at sentiment. So sentiment's the most bearish I've seen in a long time. There's probably a reason. I mean, the economy people are worried about. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but people are worried about it, at least at the moment, as reflected in the Russell and in the transports, in the growth related indexes. That's the highest I've ever seen it. What that means to me is if the criteria that made you go down starts to change, it could go up in a hurry, like you see the ES right here. So let's go over the crib notes so you sort of know what we're talking about. And I want to show you other historical precedents. So let's go into it so you know what I'm talking about. So number one is this. I get it up here for you. Little cheat sheet for you. In fact, I could take it with my actual notepad, make it a little easier so you don't see all the borders. All right. So you got that the bonds have been going up for a long time. That's bullish. You got the sentiment is ridiculously negative. That's bullish. You have the SPX got too far versus the 20 and the 9 SMA. That's bullish. You got the MACD's neutral. I mean, the MACD is a non-event in here, just so you know. MACD is a non-event. S&P versus the India market is bearish. It's a big old divergence. The Bitcoin SPX negative divergence is bearish. And like Jack just showed, Bitcoin sold off, which unfortunately I didn't pound it in that trading view competition, but it worked. So pretty interesting. But getting back to it, Russell and Dow Jones under the 200, that's bearish. And the economic worries as displayed by the Russell and the transports. So you have on the one side, you have the sentiment. On the other hand, you don't have stability yet in the Russell. So when the Russell downticks, the market's downtick. That's what's been happening. You see it. I mean, you see it a mile away. So just keep that in mind in there. That's what I'm watching. That's why we did butterflies in the SPX around 59.65, in the S&P around 596. This is all betting that if the Russell doesn't crash, the markets are going to stabilize. So that's the way we look at it. Doesn't mean roaring bull market, but it means stabilize. So, which is what's happening. I mean, the markets are stabilizing. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's like the best thing since sliced bread, the overall market, but I'm just telling you, go and take this again. I just posted it in there. I'm trying to see if I can post it in the Restream room. Let's see if I can do that. This is just my opinion. So a lot have asked me for sort of a flow sheet of what I'm watching. I'm watching the Russell and the transports. I'm watching the BTC and the SPX. And now I'll go in why all these are important. So let's go into that and I'll show you what we're talking about. By the way, so that's what we're doing. So let me go in one by one and show you what we're talking about. So the first thing I want to show you is that big old red is the 200 moving average. On the left, I'm going to show you the Russell with a daily 200 moving average. Now, I know we did that yearly for the yearly subscribers a panel last night, and somebody poo-pooed me about the Russell. They're like, everything's still in a bull market. Well, I don't know about you, but the Russell is back under where it was in the election. That don't look like a bull market to me. So that's number one. And then it's your identification of what is a bull market. Well, I think an uptrend is when you're over the 50 moving average. So you're not over, you're under the 200. So the idea that the Russell's in an uptrend, I don't get. But I want to show you this because to me it's a big deal. On the right is the S&P. this far over the 200. On the left is the Russell this far under the 200. This is over the 200, under the 200. So the last time I saw this much of a divergence, I want to show you. Now, that doesn't mean today. I just want you to know it doesn't mean today anything. With the sentiment this negative, I'd like to see some of the fear worked off by having a sharp short covering rally. But I want to show you this because I think it's a big deal. So you see this right here. You see and Penn, totally agree. So let's go and put that in there. You know, I like putting all these, and I like all different colors too. So we're just going to go in here and we're going to put the simple moving average as well. And we'll put it as the 50. So a lot of times I use the 50 to determine an uptrend. I have no idea how somebody thinks this is an uptrend in the Russell. That's a downtrend. The slope and under it, that's a downtrend. So just keep that in mind. That does not mean it can't go up, but I want to show you the divergences in here now. So let me just show you what we're talking about. So like I said, this is right at the 50. So you're not sure if that's an uptrend or a downtrend yet. Just keep that in mind. So, you know, all day, watch that Russell. That's a big deal. So let's go over these just so you know. So the first things first, in the long run, I think the SPX is going to here. So that doesn't mean this second. In the long run, if the Russell doesn't rally. So just keep this in the back of your mind right now. Just keep that in the back of your mind about the Russell. And now I want to show you it's September of 2023. So we're going to go back here to 2023. I'm talking about divergence when I've seen the Russell and the transports under the 200 while the ES and the NASDAQ are way over it. That's all we're doing right now. That's all we're doing. So just showing you that. So let's go into it and I'll show you what we're talking about. So this is on demand. Well, let's just take this and I'm going to take an image for you for right now. So I just want you to see that image. I want you to have these. You can have them in your hip pocket for later. So that's now. Now what I want to show you is October 7th of 2023. That's when you got a big old divergence. So we're going to go back to here to 2023. And we're going to go to October. First things first, show you September 14th, let's say. September 21st, my daughter's birthday. All right. So we're going to go to a daily, September 21st of 2023. What do you notice? Russell decisively breaking, S&P way over it. Let's take a little earlier. So let's take the 14th. S&P way up here, way up here. So use that. It's up here. RTY is right at it. So now let's take the next thing. We're going to go in here and take October 7th. Let's say October 6th. 7th is Saturday. And you're going to see Russell decisively under it. S&P still over it. What's it going to take for the S&P to get destroyed? This to have another leg down. This is very similar to now. It's where it was like 3 months ago. S&P is still above the 200. Use that 200. Now watch what happens October 25th, historically weak time anyway. And as you see, yeah, it fluctuates with if it's under or over the ATR trailing stop. But there's a lot of other factors. Like I said, there's no magic bullet. The big players change the way they do their algorithms every day. There's no holy grail. Just keep that in mind. There's a tremendous amount of factors that go into being successful as a trader. There's not one. So remember, I was on the floor a long time. I was one of the big boys. I know how it works. You change your attitude according to market conditions. But this is what I want to show you. This is October 25th, 2023. The Russell is down. The S&P is here. It finally broke. Now go to October 30th. Yeah, look at that. So this only went down about 300 points, 10%. So let me give you a screenshot of this. There. So that is one of the warning signs. Doesn't mean today you have a lot of negative sentiment, but that's one of the warning signs. Just so you know, just one of the warning signs. That's one thing I'm watching. So you can actually add the NDX in here. So the NDX, it stayed over it the whole time, but at least it approached it. Now go to now. It hasn't approached it yet. It's not that far away, but it hasn't approached it. So that's what I'm watching. So that's one of the negatives. That's why I have this up here. That's why I have that up here. One of the negatives. All right. Now, are there other things? Yeah. So the next thing I want to show you is Bitcoin. And I want to show you that now. I don't know who thinks that's a bull flag. This is a bull flag. See on how you could draw a nice slope. This is a top. I have no idea how you think that's a bull flag. So that's called hope. So just keep that in mind. That's called hope. That's the way I look at it. So you got Bitcoin going down. Now, why does that matter? Bitcoin matters because to me, it doesn't matter every time. It doesn't matter every time. Just keep that in mind. Not every time does Bitcoin matter, but it matters when it's breaking because a lot of people think of this as the risk off or risk on trade. Keep in mind that this is the November gap right there. If it fills that, a lot of people are worried about the S&P filling that. So just keep that in the back of your mind. That's a big deal in my opinion. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So definitely that's a big deal. And like I said, right now you're watching the Russell. Don't worry about the bonds. You're watching the Russell and you're watching the apples and you're watching the NVIDIA. I don't know why everybody loves NVIDIA. It drives me nuts. NVIDIA this, Tesla this, Tesla and NVIDIA. I don't get it. I know more people loaded up the yin yang with calls in both. I don't get it. But getting back to it. So you have the Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin does this, then every twerk of Bitcoin is now going to be watched religiously by everybody. That's the way I look at it. So if Bitcoin sells off, people get nervous. That's the way it looks to me. If Bitcoin sells off, people get nervous because Bitcoin looks bad on a 4-hour or a daily chart. So when Bitcoin just had this sell-off in the last hour, the ES listened. That's the whole point. So just keep that in mind. So when conditions change, and what I mean by conditions change, when the Russell is this far under the 200, then you're going to have to use that as a tell. So every time it down ticks, then the S&P is probably going to have a tough time rallying because the daily charts are diverging so much. That's all it means, no more, no less. So just keep that in mind. So there's a time when you have to key off of these. That's all it means. So when you see the Russell decisively breaking, that means that everybody is watching every little tick of the Russell. That's all it means. They're watching every little tick of the Russell. It doesn't mean it can't go up. So, in there, like I said, this is a simple one. I'm using the MACD, I'm using the ATR trailing stop, and some simple moving averages. That's all. Like I said, this is how I've done it for 45 years. And believe it or not, these still work. They still work. There's your 2 grid. So just keep that in mind. And like I said, what are the big boys watching? Right now, the big boys or the big women or whatever, the big people. I call it the big people. They're watching every tick of the Russell. You can see it over here. S&P, what's it doing when the Russell is twerking over here? So the Russell's sitting here, the S&P is sitting here. The Russell had a little rally, the S&P had a little rally. That's all I'm watching. So what am I watching now? Is that going to break up? If that breaks up, you'll probably see that back to unchanged. That's the way it looks to me. But like I said, you look at a holistic approach, a daily chart. And when the daily chart of growth-oriented indexes are selling off, then you have to use those as your tells. No more, no less. That's all you're doing. You've got to use those as your tells because that's what the big people are watching. So the big people are not buying at support if these crash. So just keep that in mind. So that's what we're watching. Now, when it comes to today, well, the Russell better rally. So, or this is going to flag. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Where's the leadership? Amazon, no. NVIDIA, no. Lam Research has a big buyback. I don't count that one. So that's where we are at the moment. You don't have any leadership, but you have a lot of negative sentiment. Is negative sentiment enough to move the needle with everything? Nah, I don't think so. I think you have to combine multiple factors. That's the way I look at it. Now, if the Russell breaks up, yeah, that'll help the ES. If not, this is breaking. So I just want you to realize that. So that's what I'm watching at the moment. So that's what I'm watching. If the Russell, well, you could see it right here if you're using relative strength. So what are you watching? You're watching that if the Russell has another leg down, then these are more likely to be bear flags. That's all you're watching. That's all you're watching. No more, no less. Are they big bear flags? That's the next thing you're going to have to ask yourself. So when you go into this on an ultra short-term chart, what happens if it breaks 59.50? Could it go to 59.40? Sure, it could. So why not? The only thing really going for the markets here is that sentiment is so wildly negative. That makes me think the markets are going to stay in check today. That's all. I think they're going to stay in check. And what that means is that if we stay here, then chart patterns mastery, that butterflies we did are going to come out great. So basically, it's extremely difficult to manage this for you. And I'll show you why. So number one, we have a butterfly in the SPX. So, and thanks for saying that, Al. So we have a butterfly in the SPX. We're taking advantage that there's a 32-point expected move with 4 hours to go. That's gigantic. That is gigantic. On the other hand, this could be a bear flag. So that's why the expected move is so big. So, I mean, that's the problem. There's a lot of instability. So, as you see it over here, you see it over here. If that doesn't hold, maybe that. But if the Russell holds, maybe it holds. But the key is the volatility at the moment is in the sky, which you can take advantage of. The problem is I would have rather taken advantage of it a little later in the day. So that's where I am. So, like I said, the way I'm looking at it is this. Just keep this on your screen. The Nasdaq and the Russell. If the Russell breaks, this is more likely to break to the downside. Why? Because the Russell's rallied and that refused to rally. So just try to do it like, I'm not saying logic, but just try to do it like that. That's what I'm doing. So in here, like you say, it's trying to break. So if the Russell breaks, this is more likely to break to the downside. So I hope that makes sense for you. And I just showed you real time what I thought. So I hope that helped. So this is all about if then. The Russell has been your leader to the downside. The Russell tried to rally, but these wouldn't. So your sure sentiment shows you might go up, but charts are showing you might go down. Charts usually win in my book. Just so you know, charts usually win. And as you see, that's what's happening. So now you got to ask yourself, how low can the ES go? Well, you see it. So the ES could go into here. So unfortunately, we did an SPX that were too right. We were going up and now it's going down. Overall, we're okay. Not great. We need to see it bounce from here. I'm not sure we're going to see it bounce. Just to let you know. Not sure. I would have to see the Russell up. That would get me excited. So that's where we are right now. Like I said, if the AAII sentiment was up, was 50% bulls, I would have been massively short. But you could see it over here on the upper right that this bet hold. So that's what I'm watching. And it could hold, no doubt. So that's where I am right now. But as I said, look at the leadership. What makes you think markets are going to soar? You know, you can say the AAII sentiment, sure. But the point is that you got to start seeing some unusual strength in the leaders. And you're not yet. So that's where I am. The volatility is up for a reason. And the volatility is up because chart patterns mastery, by the way, I'm going to get out of the S&P. We're going to take a tiny win. So we're selling it at 630, just so you know. So let me actually go put that in there. So I logged in there for a second. There, just so you know. I want to get it back in it later. I just want you to know I want to get back in it later. With a vol this high, you got the odds on your favor if certain things happen, which means seeing some leadership changes. Just keep that in mind. So that's where I am right now. You got to be real careful about if this Russell sells off, yeah, maybe, and this holds, then it's less likely to be a bear flag. So I'm not trying to be glib about that. I'm just telling you on how I'm looking at it. So that's where I am right now. You got to be real careful about the market really cracking here, and then you can always get back in. Just keep that in mind. You can always get back in things. You just might not get in exactly the prices you want. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, the lower the Russell goes, you're keying off the Russell. You can even key off the Bitcoin, no doubt. So the lower the Bitcoin goes, the lower the NASDAQ goes. The lower the big stock NASDAQ stocks go, the more likely it's going down. You're getting near support, don't get me wrong, but it's not there yet. Just keep that in mind. So that's what I'm watching. So that's what I'm watching. So I'm watching those two things. So like I said, in the long run, if the Russell doesn't reclaim things and the Dow Jones transports don't reclaim things, I think the ES is going to at least approach the 50. Doesn't have to go to the 50, but approach it. Approach it. Theoretically, let's say. This is all about that other indexes are already under it. And like I said, that doesn't mean today. And also, I want to go back and show you something else I think is interesting. So we're going to go into here. And like I said, right now we have the ATR trailing stop, the 200, the 50. That's it. No more, no less. Not a lot else. So usually what happens is, like I said, the Russell better rally or the ES is going to listen. But what happened back in 23 is this futzed around here and the ES wouldn't go down. What's that mean to me? That usually means that gets bulls, less bears. It gets less because everybody's, they give up on the downside. I saw it in 1987. The more times that, and I'll show you, I'll go back and show you again. So if you go back to on demand and you go into October 4th, I was there. I'm always here. So right here where this sold off and that rallied, everybody said, oh, it bounced off the 200. That's it. It's going to go straight up. Well, that's not what happened, as you know. So, but like here, September 18th or September 13th, Russell was at it. This is way over it. Everybody's like, oh, it doesn't matter this time. So then you go into the 20th. Russell's under it. This is way over it. Everybody's like, it doesn't matter this time. And you see what happened. So what's happening now? Yeah, luckily we got out of the SPX fly and made a little money. And just keep in mind, this is your ES. Remember, I told you 69.50, and you have the Russell, which refused to go higher. So if the Russell didn't go up, the markets weren't going to go up. That's all it's about. So that's all we're doing. So now if the Russell can come back to up, yeah, that's a whole different situation. But as you see, it's not working in Apple. Amazon, we have a butterfly for tomorrow. We hope it stays right here. Meta, we have a butterfly for March. We want it to stay right, go down. Lamb Research, we want it to sit here for next week. And that's where we are. And besides that, theoretically, you better see the Russell rally. You better see all of these. When it's under the ATR trailing stop, they turn red. Every stock I'm watching is under the ATR trailing stop. And everybody that loved Tesla over 400, go to StockTwits and see where I said it was going weeks ago. Right there. The gap, 275. You heard it here first. And I know the moving average is there, but just keep in mind that price is more important. What do you notice here? It went to the price tops. Prior tops become support, not the moving average. On the way down, you get these animal spirits. That's what you get. You get the animal spirits. So it has a habit of overshooting. So just keep that in mind. In fact, let me just show you this. Now, just keep in mind on StockTwits, which I have 57,000 followers, this was posted 2 weeks ago. But let me show you. All right, here's Tesla, where just take prior tops. On the way down, use the tops. I can't tell you how many people I saw in other chat rooms and other Twitters talking about that support. On the way down, it's price. First price support, it bounced. That's your objective. Right there. Where was the one down here when it broke the 200? Let's take this off. Just put the 200. When it broke here, did it stop at the 200? No. It stopped at prior tops. Look at this. That's your support. So I'm just going to put this in, and keep in mind, anybody that tells you it's an exact price, like 171.856, that's bunk. It's all about a zone. There's your support zone. Back here. I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about back then. How about now? Here is your support zone. Support zone. So I can make that green for you. There you go. And I'm going to put this green so it has a fill in for you. Just keep this in your hip pocket. So theoretically, it's at the zone. But like I said, Tesla has a habit, like here, of getting under the 200, but going to price support. So let's put that in there for you. Here you go. No, I'm not in the micros. I'm not in anything like that. So, and like I said, I've gone over and over what I think markets can do. Number one, keep in mind, it's too early to wonder about what's going to happen with market expiration. I have no clue. I can just show you the tells. That's what this is for. I'll show you again. The biggest mistake I see is trying to do things when you really don't have any reasons. You see the price support. That's not the moving average. It doesn't hurt, but it's the price, and it's close. But like I said, if you go in, and this is what I've been going over, what happened in 2023 is the Russell had to go down enough for the ES to listen. So if the Russell goes to here, heck yeah, I think this goes to 5,800. If the Russell magically turns around, then I think that you're not going any lower. So that's what I see at the moment, which means right now a non-event. And that's what I see right now. Now, if the Russell gets back up over this, yeah, maybe this will stop going down. But until I see these start to act better, I just don't see the rationale to like be a hero on the upside. That's all I see. Don't be a time. It's not now. And that's what I see right now. Like I said, if you see some of these start to turn green, that means that maybe the downtrend is over. So just keep that in mind. Doesn't mean it is yet, but most of the indexes I watch are still in a downtrend, including Bitcoin. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm watching the divergences. Watching the divergences. I can't stress that enough. So if you see the Russell rally, sure, that would be great. If you watch the Russell down 15 and the S&P stops going down, that would be great for bulls. But right now, what if you didn't have stock twits? Let me put the who I am on stock twits. It's a lot to ask. And like I said, we're going over correlations right now, not giving specific stock ideas. So keep that in mind. Number two, everybody and their mother loves NVIDIA. I don't know why. Everybody loves Tesla. I don't know why. If NVIDIA starts to have a bull flag, sure, I'll like NVIDIA. But all I can tell you is at the moment, NVIDIA is at support. Don't make it harder than it has to be. Number one, what would hurt the most people? So like I said, was Tesla going to fill in the gap? So if you're wondering what the heck we're talking about, well, I would go to my posts. There's one. There's two. Oh, there's my leaderboard. Yeah, I did pretty good in that paper trading. So there's your February 3rd levels. That was posted a week earlier about it going there. So just keep that in mind. Meta in a buy zone. That's where we bought it. So I would go to this. There you go. This was from February 25th. Just keep that in mind. If you go way back, there you go. That was when it was 42. Watch the February 3rd levels. They're at them now. So I would go and follow me there if you're not in the chat room. So just keep that in mind. So that's where I am right now. But like I said, I would go and follow me there. It's free. And the reason is in the chat room in here, things erase at night. So in the YouTube live room, just keep that in mind. So in there, I don't look at SMCI. Any stock that is having financial problems, I take off my screen. I haven't watched that stock in months. Keep in mind, what we try to do is we don't fall in love with the stock. We don't fall in love with NVIDIA and buy the 150 calls. There's your resistance zone. There's your support zone. Where did it stop? This was posted before the opening today. Prior tops become support. Prior bottoms become resistant. Don't make it harder than it has to be. So keep that in mind. Number two in here, like I said, I don't know why everybody loves NVIDIA. So to me, it's under the 50 moving average. That to me means, well, it's right at it. But I don't see the reason to buy it. And in this level where they have a huge buyback, I don't see the reason to short it. So I don't do a thing. So that's where I am with NVIDIA. So in here. But like I said, fall in love with a pattern. Don't fall in love with the stock. That's one of the keys of making money in this business. Falling in love with a pattern, not a stock. So now, NVIDIA. Is there a way to play it? Well, you see the support. Yeah, this is drawn in before the opening. Is that actually support? That's your big problem. Is that support? That's a hard question because it sure doesn't look like a lot of support. It sure looked like a lot of resistance, but I'm not sure about support. Maybe that little gap. So let's go longer term, 4-hour chart. Take off that. Well, I can leave that up. I'm proud of that one. Is that really support? Well, all that congealed coagulation right here. Sure. All of that theoretically is support because it's at least a congestion zone. But behind that, what's support? There isn't any till 108. And if you think that's crazy, the last time it went down, where did it stop? Prior tops. Did the 200 stop it? No. Where was the ultimate sell-off? The prior tops. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, if the Russell doesn't rally, I don't know why the ES would rally. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, I know there are a lot of sites that fall in love with stocks. We don't. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, fall in love with a pattern, not a stock. And if the things that made the markets go down, Russell, the Bitcoin are going down, then guess what? Then to me, then I would, then why should these go up? About the only thing going for the markets is a lot of bearish sentiment. So it won't take a lot of good news to goose the markets, but you better start seeing the good news. That's the point. So just keep that in mind in there. So what else are we watching? Like I said, on the way down, animal spirits. You can use all kinds of lines, but I would use price. That's a coagulation of price. That's probably going to stop it for now. How about on the way down here? There was no support on the way down because it gapped all the way up. How about this? When it sold off, it stopped at all that coagulation of price movement. That's like here. So, yeah, at least you have that going for you. That's about it. So just keep that in mind. So that's the way I look at it. Like I said, the lower the Russell goes, the more likely bearish patterns are going to work in the NASDAQ and the ES, which is what's happening. That's all you're doing. Probability. So probability. So chart patterns mastery, I'm going to exit Amazon, take about a 10% gain. I don't like how the broad market's holding up. So that's where I am right now. So chart patterns mastery made about 5%. That's about it. It's just too weak a market to be a hero in Amazon. So just to let you know. So let me go put that in the chart patterns mastery room. Like I said, we did a heck of an exit in the SPX. We got that going for us. And now we'll see. We'll see by the end of the day. But here you go. Had to go post it for you. So right now, where's the support in the ES? Make it easier than everybody else. So there's your first support right there on a 4-hour. It's at it. Their next support is take prior bottoms. Number 2, what are the big boys watching today, or the big people? They're watching the Russell and they're watching the Bitcoin. That's all they're caring about. The Russell and the Bitcoin. And that's because Russell is broken down and the Bitcoin's got broken down. So if those don't go up, why should the markets go up? So the only thing, like I said, I like having 3 reasons. So if the Russell was the thing that make it go down before because people are worried about growth, then why do you think it shouldn't keep going down? In here, I am not shorting because I don't like all the bearish sentiment. So I'd like to look at something neutral, but we haven't had the washout I want. So just keep that in mind. So like I said, if all of a sudden you see Amazon or Meta going nuts on the upside, well, that's a whole different story. So chart patterns mastery, ironically, we want Meta to go down. Our butterfly is under the market. We're actually delta long, believe it or not. So that's where we are right now. Meta trying to form a bear flag. See it? Bear flag right here. This, by the way, is called a head and shoulders consolidation. A head and shoulders consolidation is a consolidation after a sell off. That is what we're talking about. And it just went down by that amount. Now you'll probably get a washout to here and then maybe a rally. But you better see the thing that made it go down go back up. So keep in mind when that tried to rally, this wouldn't. So it meant that the ES was more likely to break. That's a head and shoulders consolidation. So when this broke, that was going to break. That's what we were watching. And it could rally. Don't get me wrong. Sure, you could rally. No doubt you could rally. I just want to make that clear. The sentiment is so negative, you could have sharp rallies like you saw earlier. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And that's what I'm watching right now. I'm not doing a lot in here. And Papa, that butterfly in Tesla is working. So that's pretty cool. So I'm thrilled to see that working. So a lot in the chart patterns mastery room. Like I said, I've trained a lot of traders and all of them made money, but I didn't press the button for them. I gave them the tools. So I gave them the what to watch, what to key off of, and what your triggers are. What's going on right now? Everybody hypersensitive to that Russell. The Russell bouncing, the ES bouncing. Isn't that a miracle? So at least you get sort of the gist of how I'm doing this. And like I said, in this type of environment, what are you watching as the market selling off? Well, believe it or not, you're seeing NVIDIA try to hold. NVIDIA has a giant buyback. I wouldn't short it here. I just don't know if I want to buy it. But everybody is being hypersensitive to the index. It's under its 200 moving average. If you were Alan in Tampa, thanks for shouting me out that you liked the discussion last night where I laid all this out. So, you know, thanks for liking that. So Tesla Butterfly, though, I got to tell you right now, that 10-point wide, do you get out here? Remember, we sell premium or we buy a put fly in direction that we think it's going. So you're in this one, right? I mean, you're in it cheap. Yeah, you're in that under $1. Now it gets hairy. Is it going to have that last twerk down? You know, or do you take the 211? That's a tough one. I think you wait till the end of the day and see how it finishes out. So if you see this all of a sudden have a bull flag, you can always get out at $1.50. I mean, that's what I do. So I'm not on Twitch. I'm on Stock Twits. So like I said, 57,000 followers. I'm on Twitter. I'd rather you follow me on Stock Twits. So that's where I am right now. So all I can tell you, there's a time and a place to key off the bond market. The bond market hasn't mattered. Just keep that in mind. Commodities up ticking, bonds down ticking. That's the correlation we've been watching. So Nikkei is not doing anything. We're not keying off that. We're keying off the growth-oriented index, the Russell. That's what we're keying off of. If the Russell bounces, look at this. They're all bouncing a bit. So this can bounce. So then you go in hindsight, why did it bounce there? It's not much of a bounce. So let's go look. ES. Why would the ES bounce there? Because of that right here. Also, another reason, the measuring implication. Take this. Head and shoulders, it's a consolidation. I can't stress enough, the most money I've made is consolidations, not try to pick a bottom or pick a top. That measures 26 points. This measures almost 26. Now you know why at that level is when you're looking for the reversal pattern. That's the other thing that I've seen a lot of people lose their butt. Now, what do I mean by that? What they do is they don't wait for that reversal pattern. I can't stress enough on how important that reversal pattern is. So it's a better buy here than here, because you don't know when it's going to stop. And like I said, don't get wildly bearish in here. Number one, the thing that made it go down is bouncing. Number two, the ES made its lower objective. And number three, as you see, some of these are popping their heads up, above the ATR trailing stop. So I hope that helps you. We're going to be busy here the next couple of hours, I can tell, obviously. So Chart Patterns Mastery, tune in. I'll post as I see something. So take care.